Have you ever felt that knot in your stomach? That racing heart? Not because something bad is happening right now, but because you're terrified it might happen tomorrow? You're not alone. The Roman philosopher Seneca wrote, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality." These weren't just words from a detached thinker. Seneca was an advisor to the Emperor Nero, living in a world of constant political intrigue, where exile or execution could be just a whisper away. He didn't just study anxiety. He lived inside it. His world, full of uncertainty, rumors, and sudden reversals, isn't so different from the psychological chaos of our modern lives. Seneca understood something profound. Anxiety is a form of mental time travel. Our minds jump into the future, create a worst-case scenario, and then we react emotionally as if it's already happening. We suffer from pain we've only rehearsed. We feel the consequences before the cause. And here's the kicker. Most of the time, the disaster we dread never even arrives. So how did Seneca deal with this? He used a powerful tool called Premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of misfortunes. Now, this might sound grim. Modern culture is all about visualizing success, right? Think positive. But Stoic practice flips that script. Seneca advised imagining loss, failure, illness, and rejection. Not to be a pessimist, but to build a kind of psychological immunity. Think of it like a vaccine. By voluntarily confronting worst-case scenarios in the safe space of your own mind, you strip them of their power to shock you in real life. Fear loves a vague, shadowy threat. But when you shine a light on it, when you really look at it, it shrinks. When your mind stops treating catastrophe as some unspeakable horror and starts treating it as a problem that can be examined, prepared for, and survived, anxiety loses its grip on you. This isn't just about expecting disaster. It's about shattering the illusion that disaster is unsurvivable. And Seneca didn't just think about this. He practiced it. He would intentionally spend short periods with very little food, wear simple clothes, and embrace discomfort. He'd ask himself, "Is this what I was so afraid of?" This simple act reframed poverty from a terrifying idea into a manageable experience. Once the worst becomes familiar, it's no longer paralyzing. Wealth becomes a preference, not a necessity. Your job title becomes conditional, not your entire identity. Your imagination stops blowing things out of proportion. Fear gets downgraded to simple information. At the heart of Seneca's philosophy is the idea that surprise is what truly breaks us. An unexpected blow shatters our world because it clashes with our assumptions about how life is supposed to be. But if you've already anticipated a difficulty, you can absorb the impact with far less damage. Your mind has already made room for it. This doesn't eliminate pain, but it does eliminate shock. And that difference is huge. Shock leads to panic and resentment. Preparedness leads to adaptation. Seneca's approach trains your mind to replace, "Why is this happening to me?" with "I knew something like this was possible." That shift alone can stabilize your entire emotional world. One of his most challenging teachings is about attachment. Seneca reminds us that everyone we love is mortal, and everything we own is temporary. This sounds harsh, but its purpose isn't to make you cold or detached. It's to make you appreciate everything more intensely right now. When you assume something will last forever, you take it for granted. When you acknowledge its impermanence, your attention sharpens. Gratitude becomes immediate, not something you'll get to later. The Stoic view isn't that loss is easy, but that denying the possibility of loss makes the eventual suffering 100 times worse. When you accept the fragility of life, you can love more freely without the illusion that you own people or outcomes. You don't possess them, you experience them. To our modern ears, this can sound pretty dark. Contemporary psychology often pushes us to avoid negative thoughts at all costs. But Seneca offers a different path to peace. Peace doesn't come from hoping only for good outcomes. It comes from reducing your dependence on any specific outcome. When you truly accept that the future is uncontrollable, your energy naturally shifts to the one thing you can control: your own character, your perceptions, and your responses. So much of our anxiety comes from trying to manage the unmanageable: our reputation, random events, other people's choices, the global economy. Stoicism says, narrow your focus. Concentrate on your judgment, your actions, and your interpretations. Everything else is just weather. It will pass. The parallels to our modern anxiety are uncanny. Where Seneca feared political turmoil, we face a storm of information constant alerts, scary headlines, social media comparisons, and an endless stream of crises delivered straight to our phones. Our minds are always in a state of high alert, scanning for the next disruption. This creates what you could call chronic pre-suffering. We are emotionally exhausted from battling disasters that haven't even happened. Seneca's advice cuts right through that loop. He basically says, don't be unhappy before the crisis arrives. If trouble comes, it will be heavy enough. Carrying it twice is a choice. This kind of mental preparation is the foundation of calm. It redefines luck as the meeting point of readiness and opportunity. It redefines peace as what happens when you stop trying to negotiate with fate. That negotiation sounds like, this can't happen. I couldn't handle that. Premeditation quietly replaces that with, this could happen, and I would find a way to respond if it did. Anxiety fades when your mind stops demanding guarantees from a universe that offers none. Guarantees are impossible, but readiness is not. When you anchor your attention in the present moment, while your intellect accepts that some things are beyond your control, your emotional resistance just melts away. The ancient philosophers called this state ataraxia, not numbness, but a state of calm, clear-headed alertness that appears when your imagination stops screaming about all the things that could go wrong. Seneca's own life was the ultimate test of his philosophy. When the Emperor Nero ordered him to take his own life, historical accounts say he was composed, even comforting those around him. He had rehearsed law so thoroughly that even his own death couldn't completely terrify him. He had mentally visited this outcome many times before. When it finally arrived, it wasn't an unknown, terrifying landscape. This is the deepest purpose of Stoic rehearsal, not to eliminate fear, but to stop fear from controlling your actions. There's a powerful shift here. Anxiety isn't caused by external events, but by our internal stories about those events. The suffering happens in the anticipation, the interpretation. If your mind is where the imagined suffering starts, it's also the place where it can be managed. This doesn't mean you can control every thought. It means you can become aware of how your thoughts are creating your emotional reality, long before reality itself shows up. Following Seneca's advice doesn't mean becoming pessimistic or indifferent. It means building psychological resilience by letting go of the illusion that safety depends on certainty. Life will always be unpredictable, but unpredictability doesn't have to equal danger. You learn that you can survive more than just comfort, that your identity is bigger than your success, and that you can find meaning even when you're not in control. Here's the paradox at the heart of it all. Imagining the worst can free you up to live your best. When you've already looked the catastrophic scenario in the eye, ordinary risks feel so much lighter. You can make decisions that aren't driven by a fear of failure or embarrassment, because you've already normalized those possibilities in your mind. Courage isn't the absence of a negative imagination. It's the refusal to let that imagination become your destiny. In your day-to-day life, this is a game changer. A difficult conversation is survivable before it even begins. A potential rejection is just information, not a judgment on your worth. Financial insecurity becomes a problem to be solved, not total collapse of your identity. You stop rehearsing tragedy, and instead, you remove the taboo around simply imagining it once with clarity. Ultimately, Seneca's wisdom brings us back to a simple truth. So much of our suffering is self-inflicted built from images our minds create, and our bodies react to those images as if they are real. But if we can change our relationship with those images, if we can examine them, follow them to their conclusion, and survive them in our thoughts, their emotional power fades. The future stops feeling like an ambush and starts feeling like terrain you can navigate. The secret to ending anxiety, then, isn't blind optimism or constant distraction. It's familiarity with uncertainty. It's preparing for the worst, not because it will happen, but to prove to yourself that you're less fragile than you think. And the quiet discovery you make on the other side of that preparation is the one Seneca wanted us all to find, that even after imagining loss, failure, and discomfort, you are still here. Thanks for watching. If this resonated with you, consider subscribing for more insights on building a stronger, calmer mind. See you next time.